Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Only Stupid Answers. I am DJ Wooldridge, and I am joined today by writer, extraordinary, lovely gentleman, Sam Humphries. Say hi to everybody, Sam.
Yes, it is I, Sam the Hammer Humphries. What is happening, Internet?
So we were talking a little bit about off air, but for those that may not be familiar with you, I would be surprised if they're watching here and they don't know who you are. But maybe there's somebody. Who are you?
Let's be real. There's a lot of people who don't know who I am. In the grand scheme of things.
In the grand scheme of things, for sure.
Historically, because any dead person can be a ghost. There are a lot of people from 1066 AD who have no idea who I am. And maybe they're tuning in.
To be fair, I think I'd have to check the math on this, but I think the majority of people are dead. I think people.
The vast majority of people from 1066 are probably dead. They might be dead.
So
I know this is a hot take, but I think they're dead.
So if there's any ghosts from 1066 that might be joining us now, who are you? What are you up to? What will people might know you from?
Well, if there are any ghosts from 1066 here, I just want to say, how is the invasion of Britain going? Are you a Norman or are you a Brit? Are you building castles throughout Britain to increase your stranglehold on the Isles? How's that going for you? Because I actually already know because it's history.
Because we live now. We're in the present.
Exactly. Yeah. My name is Sam Humphries, also known as the Hammer. I'm a comic book writer and television host. Comic books, you may know me from Harley Quinn, Nightwing, Dial H for Heroes, Star-Lord, Avengers AI. From being a TV host, you might know me from DC Daily on the DC Universe platform.
You're, of course, writing Harley Quinn, who has become one of DC's biggest characters, sort of as basically almost a throwaway character on a cartoon. And now is like headlining her own movies, and she has her own DC Universe show. And I know in season 2, they spent a little time with Darkside and Apocalypse. And if I recall correctly, that was a big part of your run. Have you been watching the animated series? Did they like give you a call about like what you're doing in the comic or anything?
It's funny because I met those guys. I met Justin and Pat. I ran into them randomly on the Warner Brothers lot.
Yeah.
And they had recognized me. We were shooting something there for DC Daily, and they just work on the lot. And they introduced themselves and said hi. And the show had not been out yet. It had been announced. And they tipped me off. They were like, yeah, your Apocalypse bit, like we're doing like something with that.
Have you had a chance to check out the show at all?
Oh, I've seen every episode. Well, we watched every episode for DC Daily, which was great.
Yeah.
Because I got to watch it with some of my closest friends and favorite nerds.
Yeah.
And then get on camera and talk about it for a half hour.
Yeah.
So that was a great experience, but it's an incredible show. And it's amazing. And their twist on Harley is just fantastic. They have so much love for the character. And you could see it every second of that show.
When it comes to writing Harley, was that a character that was that you wanted to write, that you went to DC and asked for, or did they come to you? How did that work?
It was not on my radar at all. Harley was not a character I'd really thought about writing in the least. Partially because Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti had been writing her to great success for so long, for 5 years. And I think, there could just be an inertia with that, where you stop thinking about a time when that didn't happen or a time where it won't happen. Actually, Dan DiDio asked me to meet him for lunch, and we were waiting for a table. He was like, "Yeah, I'm sure you already know what I'm going to ask you about. I'm sure you already know. I'm sure you already know everything. Like I thought it'd be a surprise, but it's not gonna be a surprise. I had no idea what he was gonna ask me. There's probably 10 other things I thought he was gonna ask me about.
Yeah,
that was not gonna be one of them. First of all, because I didn't know that Jimmy and Amanda were ready to leave.
Yeah,
they had been writing the book, like I said, for 5 years, which is an incredible run. We almost never get a run that long anymore. And they had done as much as anyone to define Harley Quinn as a character.
Absolutely.
And so they were ready to step back and move on and do other things. But what I think what put me up for the job, or what got me the job, is a one shot I did for DC that most people don't remember or never read, which was Bugs Bunny versus Legion of Superheroes.
Was that part of the initiative they did with all the crossovers between the Looney Tunes characters?
It was
and the DC
there was
characters?
a series of one shots.
Yeah.
It was a 5th week event where DC characters crossed over with Looney Tunes characters. They did it again for Hanna-Barbera, but that one I got because I'm a huge Legion of Superheroes fan, and I kept trying to pitch them on Legion of Superheroes, but for various reasons, Legion was never available.
Yeah.
So I think they were like, well, you'll get to write them here. And I also love Bugs Bunny, so it was a dream project for me, but it was also a funny project, right?
Yeah.
Like, of course, it's got to be funny. Like, you can't take it that seriously.
Yeah.
But it was funny. There were jokes in it, and it was self-referential, and it broke the fourth wall.
Yeah.
All sorts of things where, like, I could see how they looked at that and they're like, this is somebody that we can hand Harley Quinn to. Like, this is somebody who's ready to write this kind of stuff on a regular basis. Because you're right, like, Harley is a big character.
Yeah.
It's a big book, a big assignment. And you're gonna, especially after a successful 5-year run with 2 creators who become synonymous with her, you need to hand her off to a character who's going to hit the ground or to a creator who's going to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And so I think that gave them some confidence that I could do that.
So when you're handed an assignment like that, like you said, coming off of a 5-year run, for you, at least in this situation, what was the key to, you're looking at that? And I remember, kind of infamously, when Grant Morrison went to him to talk about Batman, he's like, I don't have any, what am I supposed to do with Batman? Like, it's been decades. Like, what am I supposed to say about the character? And of course, he had a really great run with the character. But
Sure.
so what was your, like, okay, I'm coming into this 5-year run, I'm going to do this, or this is what helped you lock into the character and what you wanted to do with her?
DC had like a couple things that they wanted to do, ways that they wanted the book to change. Nothing super drastic, but they were like, let's focus less on the supporting cast and focus more on Harley. Or let's make her world, it's out of continuity, but let's make her world look a little more like the DC world that we know and love.
Yeah.
And that's how I came up with the first story right off the bat of sending her to Apocalypse and having the Furies and Granny Goodness. Because what is more core to the DC universe than Apocalypse, a New Genesis, in the Fourth World? It can never exist anywhere else. But really what became the key to me about Harley was just this juxtaposition that I felt within the character, where she is funny and wild and unpredictable, and crazy, and in some interpretations very violent. And breaking the fourth wall, a rule breaker in general. And then there's another side to her, which is she's a survivor. And she's been through a lot in her life, and she has grown because of it, and she has deep reserves of emotional growth there. Her emotional core is very strong and it's very complex, primarily because you have these 2 sides of her personality, and if you can figure out how to bring those together and make them overlap, you can get this fission, right? Like, you can get some like sparks there that really make Harley who she is, and will really make a book starring her sing. So I became keyed in really early on to that, and not just multiple sides of her personality, but also the nature and the tone of the book itself. And there were a lot of people who told me straight up that I wouldn't be able to pull this off.
Oh, wow.
There are a lot of people who said you can't have a Harley Quinn book that actually tackles like serious, deep, emotional, dramatic topics.
That seems weird to me out of all the characters, because I think what makes Harley so interesting is that the journey away from Joker, the journey out of an abusive relationship, and that's what makes her more than just a gimmick. So it's weird that people gave you that kind of pushback, because it's like, but that's like the text of the character. Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. To me, it seems very clear. Also, it just seems like a book that I really want to read. So you have it's a comic that is self-referential. It breaks the fourth wall. You can do commentary on DC Comics itself.
Yeah.
It's also, there's jokes and there's also poop jokes. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny, but it's also like immature at the same time, and it can be as wild and crazy as Harley herself. But at the same time, I felt like you could marry another side of a comic book to that.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you could get some like sparks there. You get that vision. So like, I knew that I wanted to put Harley through something very heavy and something very emotional.
Yeah.
And not just do it, but also explore the ramifications of it. So we had we brought Harley's mom in the mix.
Yeah.
And Harley's mom got lung cancer and she got treatment for it, and she died in the book. Now we have a lot of deaths in comic books, right? We have a lot of death, but we don't spend a lot of time with grief, so to speak. Our perception of grief in comics is very distorted. Obviously, big death in Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And we explored the character after his parents died.
Yeah.
But he's kind of in like in an eternal grief, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Like that's his eternal status quo. Same for Peter Parker.
Yeah. It's really healthy. It's a really healthy way to live.
Hey, look, they're fantastic characters.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But like, I really wanted to show or dramatize Harley Quinn going through a grief process, where it feels unbearable to deal with, and then it doesn't, and it feels unbearable again, and then it doesn't, and then slowly getting better and better, and reconnecting with this idea that, you know, she wants to embrace life, and she wants to live. And she's willing to carry this burden to do it. Yeah. So it was sort of like this. The tone of the book mirrored the character herself. You know, like, and it's fun. I love doing that kind of stuff, because when it gets too heavy, when it gets too dramatic, you've been doing dramatic for 5 pages, just throw in a joke. Throw in a couple jokes, because Harley does that, you know what I mean? And then go back and forth. If it's too light and too funny, you can juxtapose it. You juxtapose it.
Is that aspect important to you when you're, especially I guess when you're doing a 6-issue, 12-issue, however many issue run, finding that like emotional core?
Absolutely, you have to find the emotional core. You have to find the emotional core of the characters, and that has to inform the emotional core of the book, not the other way around. Yeah. You know, Harley Quinn is an icon. Yeah. She's an icon, and she's one of the few superhero icons who have debuted in the past 20, 30 years. Yeah. Going back to the 30s and 40s, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they're all icons. Our culture, but what about all the other superheroes from those days, you know, who have been forgotten? Our culture is a graveyard of superheroes who didn't make the cut to be memorable, much less iconic. Yeah. And when we think about what makes an icon, or why some characters survive and some characters don't, it really comes down to the emotional core, right? Yeah. If a character has a very well-defined and relatable emotional core, then you can take them anywhere you want. Yeah. You can do anything you want with those characters. And I'm not talking about Elseworlds like Gotham by Gaslight or anything like that necessarily. I'm just saying you can have Harley Quinn in Batman the Animated Series. Mm-hmm. You can have Harley Quinn in my book. You can have Harley Quinn in Joker War right now. You can have Harley Quinn in the Harley Quinn animated series. You can have her in Birds of Prey the movie. You can have her in the Arkham Asylum video game. But all of those are so different, and they're all informed by different points of view. But you can look at that. You could point out Harley and be like, that's Harley Quinn. It has nothing to do with the boots or the hair or the makeup. Yeah. It all has to do with, I recognize the character. Of who that character is. I recognize the emotion of that character. I relate to that character in the same way. Same with Batman. Yeah. Batman has such a well-defined emotional core. And no matter where you take him, if you preserve that emotional core, it's gonna work, and people are gonna like it. So when it comes to having an emotional core for a book like Dial H for Hero, it is so crucial, because we are constantly changing that book up, right? Yeah. Every time somebody dials the main fucking thing of the book, dial is in the title. So we're dialing a lot. Every time somebody dials, the art style changes. Not just the art style, the coloring style, the lettering style, but also the storytelling style, the paneling, the way we write the dialogue, whether there's narration or not, and what the narration feels like. You know what I mean? Like, we are really pulling the rug out from under people all the time. And having a strong emotional core is the thing that makes that book feel like one coherent work.
Yeah.
You know, it's the one thing that makes you feel like I'm still reading this same book, and the promises that they made, like the emotional promises they made in issue 1, they're still paying those off, because we, as you know, as best we could, kept going back to that emotional core.
Before we go, where can people find you?
Yes.
And what are you working on that people can keep an eye out for?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. My handle is @Sam Humphries. Very straightforward. My next comic that is coming out is Harley Quinn issue 75.
Nice.
It is the last issue of my run. It's the last issue of the series. It is an all-star jam issue with tons of amazing artists, including Sammy Basri, Nicola Scott, Manuel Lupacino, Ramon Villalobos, Ngozi Ukazu, Joe Quinones, and Riley Rossmo.
That sounds awesome.
Just an incredible lineup of artists, and Punchline is in it too. There's one of the stories is a tie-in to Joker War.
Cool.
And it's just a great, beautiful issue. So check that out. It's awesome.
So whether I know a lot of local comic shops are doing curbside pickup, or they have ways of getting you your books. So find out your local shop and go check out Harley Quinn issue 75. And if you want to know,
be safe.
Yeah, be safe.
Stay distant.
Wear your mask.
Wear a mask.
Wash your hands.
Stay home.
Stay home.
Wash your hands.
There's so many ways to be safe. Please, for the love of God.
Exactly. Do curbside push-up. Please, for God's sake, curbside pickup, all the above. Please.
So do all that, or you get it on Comixology or whatever. But go support Harley Quinn issue 75. Go follow Sam to see what he's working on next, what the next thing is. And thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, pal. Always lovely to be here.